Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Reckless Paradise Podcast. I am your host, Dystro, and tonight is a debate hour. Debate hour. This one's gonna be kind of a doozy. It is two WrestleManias. And the ones in particular that we're gonna be talking about is WrestleMania 20 and 22. We're having them go to head to head and see which one is the best. I don't really have my full answer yet, but I did do some research and all that stuff. So, WrestleMania 20 took place on March 14th, 2004 at Madison Square Garden. Had 20,000 people in attendance and it got a 1.02 buy rate, which equals out to 1,020,000 buys. Whereas WrestleMania 22 was on April 2nd, 2006 at Allstate Arena in Chicago, Illinois. The attendance was 17,555 and the buy rate was 0.9, which was a 975,000 pay-per-view buy rate. So kind of a dip from 04 to 06. The biggest WrestleMania buy rate at that time was when WrestleMania goes to Hollywood, and that pay-per-view was really good too. But I mean, buy rates and all that stuff like that really doesn't really matter at this point. But it depends on what the matches were like. So there were some notable matches from 20 that I kind of liked. Was Cena versus Show that opened the show for the United States title. Christian versus Chris Jericho, the battle of the best Christian or best Chris or whatever. Eddie Guerrero versus Kurt Angle for the WWE Championship, and the main event obviously Benoit versus HBK versus Triple H for the World Heavyweight Title. That is four notable matches from that show, which is not saying much. But you think of the prestige of WrestleMania 20, because you think of Kane and Undertaker, which really wasn't really much of anything. Um, Both tag titles were in Fatal 4-Way tag matches, which really didn't get much time. Evolution versus Rock and Sock Connection went 17 minutes, which could have probably been cut maybe down to 10, 11 minutes to kind of give some other matches more time. And plus that was Rock's last match before he goes off to Hollywood again. The Tori Wilson Sable versus Miss Jackie and Stacey Keibler for the Playboy Evening Gown Women's Tag Team match didn't even get a lot of time at all. The Cruiserweight Open for the Cruiserweight Championship wasn't really much of a good Cruiserweight Open because Ultimo Dragon infamously trips during his entrance and was really ridiculed online for after that. And plus there were some names that really didn't really fit into the Cruiserweight Open, like Akio and Funaki and all that stuff. And maybe Tajiri, but it's Tajiri, the names on paper: Chavo Guerrero, Billy Kidman, Jamie Noble, Nunzio, Rey Mysterio, Shannon Moore, Tajiri, and Ultimo Dragon. Those seven could have made that Cruiserweight Open very, very good, but it's they just didn't really give a shit about the Cruiserweight division at that time. Goldberg versus Brock Lesnar went 10 minutes too long. Could have been cut in half. Could have been, maybe almost 4 minutes. It would have been done. But they literally booed this match because both men were on their way out because Brock Lesnar didn't want to do wrestling anymore. Goldberg didn't want to do wrestling anymore. And they gave Stone Cold Steve Austin the special guest referee role because that's what they usually do with him every single fucking year. And plus Goldberg and Lesnar, I mean, they had a better match at Survivor Series 2016. And plus that was what we could have gotten here at WrestleMania 20, but we didn't. And plus Goldberg is, he can only do maybe 3 to 5 minutes of matches because he's not good for the long game. Brock Lesnar is kind of good for the long game, but he was on his way out, like I said. So they kind of ran into a snafu here because it's like, they just did lots of lockups and pushes away and locks up, pushes away, and the crowd was really, really booing this match, like really booing this. If you watch it on the Peacock version, it's like it will probably be like, hopefully that'd be funny. It's like there was like a little bit of a warning down below. It's like, if you want to skip this match, just go to like the next timestamp or whatever. Again, like the WWE tag titles in another fatal 4-way match because they don't really know what the fuck to do with these tag teams. Victoria versus Molly Holly for the Women's World Championship. This is a hair versus title match to literally get on the card because Molly Holly sacrificed her hair, godsend to her, just to get the women's title on the card. Like that's just fucking crazy. Taker versus Kane literally went almost 8 minutes. Like they could have gotten like a good good story out of it, but it's just like, it's Kane and Undertaker. It was just another match to keep the streak alive. It was just like bogged down by so much bullshit. And plus, like, some of these matches, like, you could have just done like RVD and Booker versus Dudley Boys. Simple as that. It's tag team wrestling right there. And then you could have done the exact same thing with the WWE tag titles. Too Cool versus World's Greatest Tag Team. Boom, right there. You could have given those two matches so much time, but you didn't. And we are literally going to be ridiculing you, WWE, for that. Because you didn't know what the hell to do with these tag teams. You didn't know what to do with the tag team division at that time. Because you didn't give a shit about the tag team division. Nowadays, it's more so like, you give the tag teams time, but you could have done that, many years ago. So, like come on. But also, speaking of Wrestlemania 22, this is, I guess, in my opinion, kind of a good Wrestlemania 22 here. So, with that being said, Wrestlemania 22, the notable matches that I know was the Money in the Bank that year, which has Rob Van Dam, Bobby Lashley, Shelton Benjamin, Fit Finlay, Matt Hardy, and Ric Flair. Ric Flair taking a nasty bump off the ladder. JBL versus Chris Benoit for the United States Championship. Like, that was a really good match too. Edge versus Mick Foley in a hardcore match. Like, awesome. Mickey versus Trish for the women's title actually got a lot of time, which is good. I'm actually kind of glad. I wish they could have gotten more time, because some of the matches didn't really fit on the card. HBK versus Vince and No Holds Barred, which was really a lot of fun. Mysterio versus Angle versus Orton for the World Heavyweight Championship. It was short, but it was fun. It had lots of action packed into 9-10 minutes, which is awesome. And then main event was Cena versus Triple H for the WWE Championship. Now, I will say there was some plans that were gonna go ahead at this WrestleMania 22. So I was looking up like WrestleMania 22 plans and all that stuff. And on this wrestling forum, wrestlingforum.com, this person that had typed out a post. It was the greatest WrestleMania that never happened. That's what it's labeled. So they were surfing around on the internet one day, and an interesting thought came to their brain because they had watched the True Story of WrestleMania, which is a really good DVD. They say it got them thinking about Hogan versus Flair, like quite possible the greatest match who never happened, didn't really occur at WrestleMania 8. So, like they said, they searched up other great matches that were originally planned but never happened, and they kind of looked at it like as a missing sort of thing. Now, they were saying WrestleMania 22 was never bad or anything. WrestleMania 22 was great. They watched it on pay-per-view back in 2006, and it was just great. Definitely worth the $50 back then. But they did find online what was it could have been so much better than it was. In their view, it would have surpassed WrestleMania 17. So, first off, they said the original plan was to have Orton win the Rumble and face off against Batista for the World Heavyweight Championship, who was scheduled to keep the belt until WrestleMania 22. So when he wins it at WrestleMania 21 from Triple H, he was going to hold it for a whole year until that year's WrestleMania 22 in 06. But that was not the case. It would have been an amazing matchup, would have been an amazing main event, not pure wrestling wise, but I could see the build up being great, seeing their evolution roots and history. And really, the match could have potential to be great as well. Well, we know that didn't happen because Batista got injured. After Batista got injured, the plan was to still have Orton win the Rumble and go on against Kurt as in a one-on-one situation. That would have been still have amazing build-up, and the match would have been awesome as well. Obviously, we still got Angle versus Orton, but you add Rey Mysterio into the mix as a sign of respect for Eddie Guerrero. Speaking of Eddie Guerrero, they would have had a Eddie Guerrero versus Shawn Michaels as an interpromotional SmackDown versus Raw brand supremacy match. They really don't know about the build-up, but this match would have screamed WrestleMania. They actually said, they're really sad this match didn't happen because that would have been an absolute tear the place down of Chicago. Obviously, their match didn't happen because Eddie passed away months prior to WrestleMania. God rest his soul. Last but not least, we would have had Bret Hart versus Vince McMahon in quite possibly a hardcore stipulation of some sort. If you remember, Bret Hart was inducted into the 2006 Hall of Fame ceremony, and there were some rumors that Vince had offered Bret to work at Mania with him in a revenge match for the Screwjob. Vince, we just saw this match last WrestleMania, and it was one of the worst matches in WrestleMania history. But at least in 2006, Vince McMahon could have bladed a bit here and there, plus more weapons could have been used, and the match would have been much more better than it was last year. But this, when they were writing this is 2011. So when Vince McMahon versus Bret Hart happened, that was WrestleMania 26 in 2010. So it could have been more better. Let's just say that. And the match would have been much better than it was last year. Bret declined offer, obviously, and that's why we got Shawn Michaels versus Vince instead. So they say WrestleMania could have been possibly the best WrestleMania of all time, along with the bouts I've mentioned above. We would have witnessed Triple H versus John Cena, and Mick Foley versus Ed, the Great Money in the Bank ladder match, and Mickey versus Trish. So, with that being said, I kind of agree with that. And plus, like, with nostalgia of WrestleMania 20 versus 22, I do remember more about 22 because I actually had watched WrestleMania 22 when I was doing a 06 run of pay-per-views, and I kind of remember more so WrestleMania 22 because of the Money in the Bank cash, the Money in the Bank win from RVD, the very physical bout between JBL and Benoit, the hardcore match between Edge and Mick Foley, the women's title match, no holds barred match between HBK and Vince, the world championship matches too, lots of fun and all that stuff. And plus, this is the era of like John Cena being John Cena. Cena wins, lol. But yeah, I kind of agree with that. WrestleMania 22, I could say like that was like, I guess that's the best WrestleMania in my opinion. I mean, there's probably more better WrestleManias out there, but at this point of time between WrestleMania 20 and 22, I gotta go with WrestleMania 22. And plus it was, Chicago, Illinois, and if you do remember in John Cena's entrance, there is a suitable ROH alumni there, one CM Punk in the entrance, which it was kind of cool to see. I didn't recognize him right off the rip last time when I watched it, and I noticed it one time, and I had shouted out to my friend Marissa, my podcast colleague, And I was like, yeah, like there's CM Punk in the entrance and all stuff. She looked at it and she watched it and she's like, wow, okay, shit, like holy crap, like that is CM Punk. I thought it looked familiar. um, but yeah, WrestleMania 22 is my final answer. Debate done, sealed, signed and delivered. This is actually kind of cool to like reminisce about because at that time I was 8. I would have been 8 that year in 2006. I know I'm an old soul. But yeah, that was a good look at the past here. But if you've made it to the very end of this episode, please make sure to like, subscribe, and follow us on all social medias in the link tree in the description below, which will take you to our Instagram pages, Twitter pages, our podcast Reddit page. My gaming YouTube channel is on there, and I guess the song of the night tonight is going to be "Welcome to Paradise" from Green Day. It is also from the album Dookie that I recently did a random ranking Green Day episode on, and that was I would say two weeks ago. That was 2 weeks ago on the podcast timeline. But please make sure to follow us on. Like I said, please make sure to follow us on all social medias. And that's it. I will see you next week for another Reckless Paradise podcast episode. Peace.